They told her he wasn't the right kind of man, just because he was black. But she gave up everything to prove them wrong. And what happened next changed them all forever. You can't be serious, Rachel. The sound of her mother's voice slammed against the kitchen walls, startling even the dog asleep under the table. Rachel Carter stood frozen, her phone still lit with the photo she had shown them, a picture of her and Jaylen from their recent hike, their arms wrapped around each other, smiling, wind-blown, and glowing with happiness. But all her parents saw was him. Her father, Daniel, sat back in his chair, jaw tight, eyes fixed on the table like it had personally betrayed him. Her mother, Lauren, clutched a dish towel like it might stop her from saying something worse. "It's just a picture," Rachel said, her voice firm but low. "No, sweetheart," her mother snapped. "It's a statement." Rachel's heart thudded. "A statement? That I'm in love? That I'm happy? Is it because he's black?" she asked, no longer able to keep it in. Her father's eyes flickered, that quick, defensive dart that always gave him away. "It's not about race," he said too fast. "It's about your future, your safety, your reputation." And there it was. The pause. The hesitation. The lie. Because if it truly wasn't about race, they wouldn't be reacting like she'd announced she was dropping out of school to join a street gang. Rachel stepped back, feeling the air grow thick around her. She had rehearsed this in her head for weeks. She thought maybe, if they saw how happy Jaylen made her, they'd let go of their assumptions. Their tight, narrow little version of what respectable love looked like. She thought wrong. "You don't even know him," she whispered. "I know enough," her father said without looking up. "No, you don't," she snapped now, voice rising. "You know what neighborhood he grew up in. You know what car he drives. You know his skin color. That's all." "Rachel," her mother said more gently now, "we just want what's best for you. Someone who understands your background, who fits into our world." Rachel laughed bitterly. "You mean someone white?" Silence. It said more than words ever could. Jaylen had always known this moment would come. From the very first date, he warned her. "Your parents might not like me," he said casually, as if it was a line he'd memorized. She thought he was exaggerating. But now, watching her parents squirm in their comfortable kitchen with its quartz countertops and silent judgment, she knew he wasn't. She remembered the first time Jaylen met someone from her world, her cousin Evan, at a coffee shop near campus. Evan had smiled, been polite, even shook Jaylen's hand. Then texted her later, "Is this a phase or something serious?" It hurt. But she brushed it off. Until now. Until she realized her parents weren't even pretending to be supportive. "Jaylen is brilliant," she continued, voice trembling but strong. "He's in pre-law. He volunteers with foster kids on weekends. He's patient, kind, and he's never judged me, not once, for where I come from." Her mother looked like she wanted to say something but bit her lip. "He treats me better than anyone ever has," Rachel went on. "He listens to me. He respects me. And he challenges me, in a good way. He doesn't make me smaller just to make himself feel big." "Rachel," her father said, finally looking her in the eyes, "we're just worried this world isn't going to be fair to you both. Interracial couples face things you don't understand yet. You'll deal with stares, disrespect. You'll get blamed for things you didn't even do." She shook her head slowly. "You're not worried for me. You're worried about me. About how this makes you look. About what the neighbors might say. The golf buddies. The church group." "That's not fair," her mother whispered. "No, what's not fair is assuming Jaylen isn't good enough for me because of his skin. What's not fair is me being forced to choose between the man I love and the people who raised me." Rachel's hands were shaking now, but she didn't care. She had lived her whole life carefully. The perfect daughter, the model student, always saying the right thing at family dinners, smiling at neighbors she didn't like, dating boys that ticked the right boxes. Jaylen didn't tick the boxes. He shattered them. And maybe that's what scared her parents the most. "You've made up your mind then?" her father asked, arms crossed, voice flat. "I have," she said. "And I'm not asking for permission." "You'll regret this," he said softly, more like a warning than a threat. Rachel's eyes filled with tears, but she stood tall. No. I'll regret pretending to be someone I'm not just to make you comfortable. She turned and walked toward the door. Her mother called after her, "Where are you going?" "To be with someone who sees me, not just my color." As the front door clicked shut behind her, Rachel felt something shift in her chest. It wasn't peace. Not yet. But it was freedom. Rachel didn't cry in the car. Not until she parked outside Jaylen's apartment and turned off the ignition. Only then, in the quiet stillness of the night, did her hands begin to shake. Her breath hitched. And the tears finally came, not because her parents had disappointed her, but because a part of her had still hoped they wouldn't. The front door opened before she knocked. Jaylen stood there, hoodie on, eyes instantly scanning her face. He didn't ask. He just stepped aside and let her in. Rachel dropped her bag on the couch and sank into his arms like she had nowhere else to go, because she didn't. "I told them," she whispered against his chest. He nodded. "I figured. You okay?" "I will be." Jaylen kissed the top of her head and pulled her closer. He didn't say, "I told you so." He didn't ask, "What did they say?" Because he already knew. He'd seen that look on other white parents before, the one that said, "We don't hate you, but we'll never accept you either." Later that night, curled up under a blanket on his worn couch, Rachel stared at the ceiling. "Do you think they'll come around?" she asked quietly. Jaylen didn't answer right away. "I think the world doesn't change overnight," he finally said. "And sometimes, neither do people." It wasn't meant to hurt. But it did. Because Rachel wanted to believe love was enough. That her parents would look past skin and see soul. But Jaylen had grown up knowing that wasn't always how it worked. His mother had been a nurse for over 20 years, and people still called her Miss instead of Ma'am. His older brother got pulled over twice in 1 month for matching a description. Jaylen had learned early that being kind, smart, and respectful didn't always protect you from judgment. Rachel was just now learning the same. The next morning, Jaylen walked her to class. They held hands the whole way, not as a statement, but as a comfort. Still, Rachel couldn't help but notice the stares. One girl in a sorority hoodie did a full double-take. A group of guys near the science building smirked as they passed. One even muttered something under his breath. Jaylen didn't flinch. But Rachel did. "They always look," he said calmly. "I've just learned not to care." "But I care," Rachel said. "I hate that they look at us like we're breaking some rule." "We are," he said. "Just not one worth keeping." That weekend, they went to a local jazz bar where Jaylen's friend was performing. The place was warm, filled with laughter and soft lights. Rachel exhaled the tension she didn't even realize she was holding. But even there, in a place full of people of color, she felt out of place. A woman at the bar gave her a long, disapproving glance. Another group whispered behind their drinks when she walked by. Rachel suddenly felt like she didn't belong anywhere, not in her parents' world, and not in Jaylen's either. Later, in the car, she stared at her reflection in the side mirror. "Maybe they're right," she said. "Maybe I don't fit." Jaylen turned to her. "Rachel, you're not here to fit. You're here because we love each other. That's it." "But what if I'm not enough?" He took her hand. "You are enough. You just weren't prepared for how heavy this fight can be." She blinked. "Fight?" Jaylen looked at her, deeply. "The fight to love someone in a world that keeps telling you not to." Rachel didn't respond. Not right away. But in her chest, something started to shift. This wasn't just about dating someone her parents didn't approve of. This wasn't rebellion or fantasy. This was about standing for a love the world kept trying to shrink. Rachel didn't expect it to go public. But her cousin Emily had a way of making things worse, fast. All it took was one screenshot. One Instagram photo of Rachel and Jaylen at a student rally for racial equality, holding hands, standing shoulder to shoulder, smiling beneath a banner that read, "We rise together." Emily reposted it to her story with a comment. "Wow. Didn't know Rachel was into activism, or activism accessories." The damage was instant. By the next morning, her phone was blowing up. Texts from former high school friends. "Damn, is this real? This is a lot, Rach. You changed. Some unfollowed her. Others sent prayers in the form of judgment disguised as concern. And one girl, a bridesmaid in her sister's wedding, messaged her, asking if she thought Jaylen would be safe at their family's lake house next summer. Rachel stared at her screen in disbelief. They weren't even pretending anymore. Back home, things were colder than ever. Her mother had gone quiet, the kind of silence that fills a room with noise. Her father wouldn't even look her in the eye. And when she brought up Jaylen, he didn't yell. He just said, "You're making a choice you can't undo." As if love was a mistake. As if loving Jaylen, seeing Jaylen, somehow erased everything they'd raised her to be. She wanted to scream. But instead, she left. She found comfort in Jaylen's world. His friends welcomed her, even if some were wary at first. But Rachel didn't shy away from the questions. She listened. She learned. And slowly, they saw her not as that white girl, but as Rachel, the woman who stood by Jaylen even when her world pulled away. One afternoon, Jaylen's mother invited her over. Rachel sat at the kitchen table, hands folded nervously in her lap as the woman stirred a pot on the stove. "You know," she said without turning, "a lot of girls come and go in this family. But I've never seen my son look at someone the way he looks at you." Rachel's throat tightened. "I love him," she whispered. Jaylen's mother nodded, then finally looked her in the eyes. "Then be ready. Because loving a black man in this country isn't just about love. It's about endurance." Rachel nodded. She didn't fully understand. Not yet. But she was learning. Things changed again when Jaylen was pulled over. They were on their way back from dinner, laughing, music on low, windows cracked open to the spring air, when red and blue lights flashed behind them. Jaylen's hands froze on the steering wheel. Rachel reached for her purse. "Don't," he said quickly. "Keep your hands on the dash." The officer approached slowly, flashlight raised. Jaylen's voice was calm. "Good evening, officer. Was I speeding?" The cop didn't answer at first. He just stared into the car, eyes bouncing between them. Then, "You own this car?" Rachel's heart sank. Jaylen answered, "Yes, sir. Registration is in the glove box. My girlfriend is going to hand it to you slowly." Rachel moved like she was underwater, slow, careful, terrified. The stop lasted 6 minutes. But Rachel never forgot it. When they drove away in silence, she whispered, "I'm so sorry." Jaylen didn't respond right away. Then he said, "This is what I meant." Rachel turned to him. "What do you mean?" He glanced at her, his face unreadable. "Loving me isn't a fantasy, Rach. It's not just kisses and sunsets and deep talks at 2 a.m. It's this too. The fear. The double takes. The doubt. You still in." Tears welled in her eyes. "More than ever." That night, Rachel wrote a post. No more hiding. No more shrinking. She posted a photo of her and Jaylen, standing in the street under a street lamp, hand in hand. And the caption read, "They said I was too white to love him. But love isn't a color. Love is choosing the hard road when the easy one feels wrong. And I choose him. Every day." The post went viral. Comments flooded in, some hateful, some deeply moved. But for the first time, Rachel felt free. She wasn't straddling two worlds anymore. She was building her own. Rachel hadn't planned to go back home. Not after the post went viral. Not after the dozens of DMs from strangers, the podcast invitations, or the hateful comments she had to block one by one. Not after her father stopped answering her calls and her mother began sending polite one-line texts like, "Hope you're well," or "Grandma asked about you." But when she found out her sister Jessica was engaged, she knew she had to go back, even if it meant walking into a storm. Jaylen offered to come with her. "I don't want you walking into that house alone," he said. Rachel shook her head. "Not this time. If you're there, it'll only turn into something worse. I need to face them on my own." So, she drove 2 hours in silence, thinking about everything they still hadn't said. Everything she knew they might never say. The moment she walked into her parents' home, she felt it, the tension. It wasn't anger anymore. It was something heavier, quieter, like grief. Her mother hugged her at the door, but it felt stiff, rehearsed. Her father stayed in the living room, eyes on the TV, remote in hand. Dinner was quiet. Awkward. No one brought up Jaylen. No one brought up the post. The air was full of unsaid things. Until Rachel finally said them. "I'm still with Jaylen," she said. "Come. Direct." Her mother set her fork down. Her father exhaled through his nose like he'd been holding it for weeks. "We figured," her father muttered. "And?" Rachel asked. "Are we just going to pretend you didn't disown me for loving someone with a different skin color?" "That's not fair," her mother said. "No," Rachel said. "What's not fair is how quickly you were willing to let me go. Because Jaylen didn't look the way you expected. Because your daughter's love didn't fit your perfect family photo." Her father's voice was quiet but sharp. "We didn't disown you. We were disappointed." "Because I chose him?" she asked. "No. Because you chose to go against everything we taught you." Rachel's face hardened. "Then maybe what you taught me was wrong." Her father stood, his voice low and shaking. "Rachel, the world isn't kind to couples like you two. We just didn't want you to suffer for a decision that felt temporary." "Temporary?" she said, standing up too. "You think this is some phase? Jaylen is the most real thing in my life. He supports me, respects me, loves me. He's the only one who didn't make me feel ashamed of who I've become." Her mother's eyes filled with tears. "It's not shame, Rachel. It's fear. We're scared for you." Rachel softened for a second. "Then say that," she said quietly. "But don't act like your fear gives you the right to control my heart." Her father looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in months. And for the first time, said nothing. The next morning, Rachel left without saying goodbye. She didn't need to. Some doors had already closed. Others weren't ready to open yet. Back at school, Jaylen was waiting with 2 coffees and a quiet smile. "How'd it go?" he asked. Rachel shrugged. "They're still them. But I'm not the same." Jaylen pulled her into his arms. "Then you're growing." A few weeks later, something unexpected happened. Her father emailed her. Just one line. "Would he come to dinner?" Rachel stared at the screen in disbelief. "Jaylen," she said, holding out her phone. He read it. Looked at her. "You sure?" he asked. "I don't know," she said. "But maybe this is the beginning." Rachel had replayed that email in her mind 100 times. Would he come to dinner? 7 words. Simple. But it felt like an earthquake breaking tension that had been building for months. She didn't know what had changed. Had her father read the comments under her post? Had he seen the news clip of their story shared on local media? Or maybe he just missed his daughter. Jaylen didn't react with shock or pride. He simply nodded. "Let's go." The drive back to her parents' house was quiet, but not tense. They weren't scared this time, they were prepared. Rachel wore a calm determination, and Jaylen carried a quiet dignity. No overthinking. No costumes. Just themselves. When they arrived, her father was already waiting at the door. Jaylen extended his hand. Her father paused. Then shook it. Firm. Respectful. Rachel's heart skipped. Dinner was still awkward, but different now. No silent judgment. No carefully measured sentences. They talked about school, about Jaylen's upcoming internship at the Civil Rights Legal Center. Her mother asked thoughtful questions. Her father listened more than he spoke. At one point, Rachel excused herself to the kitchen. When she returned, she paused in the hallway. Jaylen and her father were sitting across from each other, not talking about race, not debating identity or politics. They were talking about basketball. Jaylen smiled at something her father said. Her father laughed. It wasn't much, but it was something. Later that night, Rachel and Jaylen stood outside on the porch, looking up at the stars. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded. "Better than okay." "I didn't expect all this," Jaylen admitted. "Not from your dad." "Me neither. But sometimes, even the most stubborn people start to change." Jaylen took her hand. Or maybe you changed them. Months passed. Rachel and Jaylen kept growing, as a couple and as individuals. They faced more resistance, of course. More questions. More side eyes. But they faced it together. Jaylen graduated with honors and was offered a full-time position at a non-profit that fought racial injustice in housing and education. Rachel started a blog about interracial love, privilege, and healing family divides. What started as journaling turned into a platform, followed by thousands of people who saw their own stories reflected in hers. Her father subscribed. And one day, while attending a community forum, Rachel saw him, standing near the back, listening to a young black speaker talk about growing up feeling watched, but never seen. Her father approached the young man afterward, introduced himself, listened, and when Rachel asked why he came, he simply said, "Because I want to understand better than I did before." Years later, Jaylen and Rachel stood in front of a small group of family and friends, hand in hand, ready to say "I do." Her father walked her down the aisle. He didn't just give her away. He gave her his blessing.